It's the Decatur Arts Podcast, brought to you by the Decatur Area Arts Council.
All right, welcome to the show. I'm Jerry Johnson, Executive Director of the Decatur Area Arts Council, and this is the video version of the Decatur Arts Podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Just search for Decatur Arts and look for the big, colorful DA. We've got a great show for you today. Dr. Bob Carney is here to talk about his 35 years creating amazing constructions out of Legos. Many of his creations will be featured in the Arts Council's February 2021 gallery exhibit, Brick by Brick, Creativity with Lego. So welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before you dive into your presentation.
I initially got into Lego in the early 1970s when our kids entered grade school. At that time, Lego was pretty much new to the US. It was being sold through Kraft cheese, Velveeta cheese advertisements, and was distributed by Samsonite Corporation in Denver.
I didn't realize they had that cheese connection.
Yes, and so the first few sets we bought were fairly limited, and then Lego got a foothold in the United States, opened up their headquarters in Enfield, Connecticut, and more sets with a variety of more interesting things kept popping up. I didn't do anything with Lego other than build with the children until 1986. So this is the presentation of Lego building from 1986 until now. The beginning of my formal sort of preoccupation with Lego occurred because of this castle wall corner, now known as a castle wall panel, which came out in a set in 1986 called the Black Falcons Fortress. The set sold retail for about $30, could be found on sale fairly regularly. And I ended up buying more than 25 of those sets over the next several years in order to accumulate 10 times whatever the number of castle wall corners, so I could build castles that looked like the real thing with round and D-shaped towers. The first castle I built was Caerlaverock in southern Scotland. It is one of only 2 triangular castles in the world, and as probably all of you who are watching this, because you have some direct or indirect interest in Lego, know that the Lego product basically most easily makes square and rectangular structures. So a triangle was kind of an interestingly weird start for my castle building. There's a couple pictures of the actual ruin and the plan as it sits in a pond. The first castle's on the upper left and was very primitive, but I thought it was fairly cute. I redid it 11 years later when I had a lot more Lego and a lot more experience, and it looks much more like the real thing. Among the other highlights and lowlights of my castle endeavors was the 6th castle I built, which is Newcastle upon Tyne Dungeon, all that's left of the original castle in North England. My first model is on the upper right, again fairly primitive, but then 6 years later I created another model of it because I believed I could do it better, and it is the first castle that I ever did that I really thought I had done the original justice. So this is the one that I was first time really proud. Anyway, my 3rd castle was my first really big castle, and it was so big that I completely ran out of Lego about 80% through the build. But I did it again in 1995, again much bigger, and it was a milestone in that I got my first article in the Decatur Herald and Review, written by Englishman Tony Reed, who was with the Herald and Review for many, many years. My 5th and 62nd castle was a milestone, not because of number 5 down in the lower right, but because of the one I built a decade or so later, which had some very intricate decorations that looked like the original castle. And it was the first time I got into trying to create something that was a little more artistic rather than just a stone war palace. My 14th and 83rd castle, the keep at Dover, was unique because this castle, as you can see from the picture on the lower part of the screen, is much darker than a traditional light gray castle. And so when I recreated it in 2001, it was the first time I had built a model out of dark gray Lego. And it took 10 months to finish because I repeatedly had to order more parts, having continuously run out during the project.
You mentioned that you've done, that was 14th and 83rd. There are a number of castles that you recreated because you thought you could do a better job with them.
Exactly.
How many of those do you think you redid?
I'm guessing around 20. It's on my website. There is a list of a chronologic list of the castles I've built, and they're all cross-referenced to each other. And I'm thinking it's somewhere around 20, Jerry.
Gotcha. And you also mentioned that you had to keep reordering supplies. Where do you get your different colors of Lego and things like that?
Originally, of course, one bought Lego sets. And I bought Lego sets that appeared to have the best yield for parts that I would need. Needless to say, there were hundreds of Lego elements that I didn't have any use for, and they simply accumulated in my basement for quite a number of years. Then a couple in Boston began to buy large numbers of Lego sets on sale, break them down into individual pieces and sort those pieces into groups. And they opened a website called Auxilla. And it operated for about 10 years and was the only way to buy large numbers of individual pieces if you were lucky enough to get the bid. And it was kind of frantic as auctions hopefully are toward the end, and went on until the gentleman's wife unfortunately died and he gave up the whole project. And about that time, around 1999 or 2000, Bricklink was developed by Dan Jessic. And Bricklink initially had an auction version, didn't last for very long. And it's simply a matter of thousands of Lego enthusiasts buying and selling Lego individual pieces from each other.
Okay, sure.
It's worked out very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, castle number 88 was interesting in that the picture on the upper part of the screen appeared in 2002 in Decatur magazine. And I contacted Scott Reuter, whose picture it was, and asked him what the castle was. And he and his new bride had no idea. They'd just seen the castle as they drove by and stopped to take a picture of it. I contacted an acquaintance who was a castle expert and had written books about Irish castles, and he couldn't identify the castle. So I put the question out on my website, and after a few months, a gentleman from Manchester, England, identified the castle correctly as Termon McGrath in County Donegal, Ireland. And it was noteworthy in that it only lasted 38 years. being blown up and never occupied again after Cromwell's cannon got at it. And it was also noteworthy, and it was the first and only time I designed sheep to be herded from that Irish structure. Soon a Lego, a non-Lego, but works with Lego vendor came out with sheep that were very cute, and I just bought a little herd of those. And I said from the beginning that I was never going to model either a cannon fort or a palace. But then I saw pictures of the Tower of Baleem in Lisbon's harbor, and it was really, really cute. And it was unfortunately a cannon fort, but I decided I would build it anyway, and was so proud of my model, which is on the lower left, that I actually staged a rare conflict between the Portuguese castle and a couple of Spanish warships. The whole point became moot after about 60 years when Philip II became King of Portugal and Spain, and they were one for a while.
I have to say, Bob, that the original pictures of the castle kind of looked like a Lego construction in the first place.
They
I
do.
mean, that's what I thought was so fascinating about your model, is that it's the original and the model are almost identical.
Yes, and I do tend to see structures, Jerry, churches in Decatur, downtown landmarks in Decatur and other places with a Lego eye.
Sure you do.
Just happens. The second thing I said I would never build was a palace. Brickworld came about in 2007. Judy and I happened to go to the first one. We decided to show castles there in 2009.
Can you tell me what Brickworld is?
Brickworld was is a huge Lego convention that's held over Father's Day weekend every year in Chicago. Okay. The first 6 years it was at the Westin in Wheeling, north of the Loop, and they outgrew all 4 ballrooms and the meeting rooms in that hotel, and moved over to the Renaissance in Schaumburg, which has 300,000 square feet of exhibition space, plus showrooms, ballroom, and a lot more hotel rooms for the friends of Lego, adult and children who show up in droves. Anyway, so we went to the 2009 version with 3 neat castles, got lots of oohs and ahs, but not a nomination for best large building. So Judy and I decided that, and Judy is my wife, of course, that our best hope was shock and awe. And we looked at all the castles that I had designed but had not built, and the obvious choice was Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria, which is definitely shock and awe, and decided that we would build that castle for Brickworld 2010. And it took 5 months. As you mentioned earlier, I built a model that I thought looked an awful lot like the real castle. The Herald and Review did their 3rd article about my Lego building as we took off for Chicago, and there's Judy and I in the lower left in the ballroom, one of the ballrooms at the Westin in Wheeling. Unfortunately, we got 2nd place in the mega build category. We were beat out by a huge gray Bruce Wayne mansion with a 3-level bat cave underneath it. It should be noted that many of the hundreds of friends of Lego that are at these conventions are children, and they are registered and they get to vote and they love Batman.
So most of
more than they love King Ludwig, I think.
Sure. So most of the awards at the event are voted on by the attendees who register?
Exactly. Yep. Okay. Everybody who's registered gets a vote.
Okay.
And so anyway, we decided that there was no hope of my ever winning any sort of big prize if Neuschwanstein didn't do it. So the next year I took two castles, one British on the left, and famous Craigivar, probably the second most photographed castle in the world after Neuschwanstein, and an Egyptian tomb to Brick World in 2011. Didn't get any nominations, had a great time. In 2013, I decided I would build a model of Nottingham Castle, which is obviously famous because of Robin Hood. It turned out that Nottingham was completely destroyed except for the gatehouse, which is in the lower center of the plan. At the end of the English Civil War, as the castle had been the seat for the beginning of the conflict of King Charles I, who was basically kicked out of England for a while. So there was essentially nothing left except a couple of models in museums in England. But I built a model of most of the castle, and it included a jousting tournament and part of a village, and across my building table, the River Leen, and a lot closer to the castle than in real life. On the other side of my River Leen was Sherwood Forest, which was filled with Robin Hood and his merry men robbing a carriage, telling stories to children. And you can see on the upper right, Robin Hood and Little John jousting in the river with Will Scarlet looking on. But the next year, I was planning to take a project, but I hadn't decided what it was going to be. And then I got a email from a fellow in Southern Illinois who wanted me to rebuild Neuschwanstein on commission for him. And he said he would pay up to $10,000. And since I don't repeat buildings unless I think I can do them better, and I didn't think I could do Neuschwanstein better than I did in 2010, I initially told him no thank you. But on a whim, I decided I would price out the Lego in the model, just wondering how much it indeed had cost me for all the white Lego that I bought. And it turned out that the 58,000 elements cost about $10,500. So I emailed him back and said, gee whiz, $10,000 isn't going to begin to cover it. And I figured that was the end of the conversation until I got a $16,000 offer, which since Judy was happy with me rebuilding Neuschwanstein, I decided to accept. And we added a singer's hall and the throne room in the palace. It turned out that the gentleman had plenty of money and was happy to pay the $16,000. This is what the real throne room and singer's hall look like in the palace at Neuschwanstein. And under construction, that's what my throne room and singer's hall looked like while I was building the model in 2014 spring.
So eventually, once you got the model constructed, you had to peer through the windows to see into those rooms. Is that right?
No, actually, very good question. It turns out that the model that I built the second time has a removable roof.
Ah.
So that if one is very careful and doesn't drop it, which would be a disaster, you can remove the roof and look down into the throne room and the singer's hall. So yeah, windows was not a problem, Jerry.
Yep.
And it was his responsibility after he got it down to Omaha, Illinois, not to drop the roof if he took it off.
Right.
So anyway, this is the second model of Neuschwanstein now at the Renaissance in Schaumburg. Our friend Dan Valeri came over from Monaco. He's quite the Lego builder himself. There is me with my grand prize for the best mega build, which I thought I would never get, a 1x2 red Lego brick.
Yeah, that's quite an elaborate trophy there.
So I figured that was about as good as it was ever going to get Lego-wise.
Sure.
Until a month and a half passed, and I got this email from Kate Sullivan in Wales. And she was interested, or Cadw, who she worked for, the Welsh Historic Environment Service, was interested in the possibility of my building a castle and taking pictures of it while I build it, and sending them the pictures so they could make a video to kick off their 2015 tourist season, because Wales is famous for their castles, most of them built by Edward I.
So they were going to create sort of a time-lapse photography video.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. We settled on Rudland Castle in North Wales, which is an elegant, roughly square ruin with 6 towers. And I took 2,400 pictures as I built that castle. And Jamie Robbins at Equinox turned it into a 3-minute video, which indeed kicked off the Welsh spring tourist season in 2015.
When they come to visit the gallery, we'll have the video running on a
Yes.
laptop or something like that.
Exactly. Anyway, the Welsh government was so happy with that that they offered me £1,000, or then $1,500, to photograph my intended model of Caernarfon Castle in North Wales for Brickworld 2015. And having done Rudland for nothing, needless to say, $1,500 made me say yes right away. And at the time, we actually left a year early for our vacation to the United Kingdom on May 3rd. The castle looked like this. Remember, Brickworld is toward the end of June, so about 6 weeks after this picture was taken, and we were going to be spending 2 of those weeks in the United Kingdom. And then came home, and in the next 3.5 weeks, finished up the model of Caernarfon with the famous Welsh red dragon atop the tower of the dungeon, and drove it to Schaumburg, displayed it along with the Egyptian tomb again. And the Welsh government was kind enough to release the new video of the Caernarfon build on the same first public day, the day before Father's Day in 2016. Here's the display at 2017 at Brickworld. I took a model of Wasserburg Pfalzgrafenstein, which is in the middle of the Rhine River, Toll Castle. And a number of people who see this video will probably recognize the castle, having either taken a train by it on land or floated by it on a riverboat. And in addition, I took 4 mosaics of Chicago athletic teams for Brickworld 2020, which didn't happen. I have built a model of the Alcazar of Segovia. It has 27 lighted spaces, throne room, meeting rooms, king's bedroom, chapel, etc., which all feature the original artwork that's in the real castle. And we will be loading it up in the next couple of weeks and taking it to downtown Decatur to be displayed, and then hopefully to Brickworld 2021 in Schaumburg in June.
And that's the one that we can see behind you while you're sitting here in your workshop.
In fact, if you could see through the King's Hall in the middle of the castle, you could see the back of my head. You're looking at the other side.
Right.
You bet.
Well, thanks, Bob. That's pretty amazing. And the fact that you've been doing this for 35 years and maybe longer. You said you initially started in the 70s, but we're really looking forward to having all these amazing structures in our gallery through February. Again, that's February 5th through February 25th. Our hours in the Anne Lloyd Gallery are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, 10 to 2. There is no entrance fee. You got to wear your mask when you come in because of COVID. Also, we invite our visitors to look and learn, but there will be no touching of the constructions that are on display. So if you're a fan of Lego, you're definitely going to want to come to the Anne Lloyd Gallery in February to see this exhibit. So thanks again, Bob, for sort of being the centerpiece of this exhibit.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jerry.
So that'll do it for this episode of the Decatur Arts Podcast, brought to you by the Decatur Area Arts Council. Some of the music contained in this podcast was composed by Kevin MacLeod via filmmusic.io under a Creative Commons license. You can learn more about the Arts Council at decaturarts.org. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and we will talk at you next time.